Welcome to part 3 of our video on the foreshadowing of Christ through the life of Joseph. I know I promised that we'd get to the cloak of many colors today and its significance, but I'll have to make it in my next video because there's just so much to cover. There's so many similarities. I apologize, but the next video I should have it. So we're going to start back in Genesis in chapter 37, verse 23. And it came to pass when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. Okay. Now, Jesus Christ was stripped of his garments as well. Whenever he was going to the cross, they took his garments and bartered for them. Okay, now verse 24. And they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty and there was no water. We covered this in the last video. And they sat down to eat bread, and lifted up their eyes, and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels, bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. Now, this is interesting. So the brothers sit down, are about to eat, okay, so it's about to be a meal, and they happen to see some Ishmaelites coming, some Gentiles coming, and their plan is to sell Joseph, to betray him and sell him to, or give him over to the Gentiles. Now let's go to John 18, 28. John 18:28. Then led they Jesus from Caiaphas unto the hall of judgment, and it was early. And they themselves went not into the judgment hall, lest they should be defiled, but that they might eat the Passover. So Jesus was betrayed just before the Passover meal, just before all the high priests of the Jews were just about to eat the Passover. And the reason they couldn't enter the praetorium is because it would make them unclean. They're not allowed to go anywhere near Gentile establishments and stuff. So they hand Jesus over to the Gentiles and Pilate, as Jesus said. Now we need to jump back to Genesis. Okay, we're on verse 26 and 27. And Judah said unto his brethren, What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content. So Judah convinces his brethren to, instead of just killing Joseph, let's sell him into slavery. Let's make a profit off of our brother. Now, this is interesting too, because we're going to flip to John again. But Joseph's brothers, the shepherds, bad shepherds, as the bad shepherds of Israel during Jesus' time, they both wanted to get the Gentiles to do their dirty work. They both sought the profit off the deal, and hoped it would conceal their evil that they were planning to do from their father. Okay? So let's go to John 11:46. John 11:46. Alrighty. But some of them went their ways to the Pharisees and told them what the things Jesus had done. Then gathered the chief priests and Pharisees a council, and said, What do we do? For this man doeth many miracles. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. Now, to the Jews and everything, in the Old Testament and during Jesus' time, the temple was God's dwelling on earth. That was God's living among his people, was through the temple. Okay? To take away the temple would be like taking away God's favor, God's love, God from their people. And so they were worried to death that they were going to lose their temple if the Romans got agitated with Jesus, even though Jesus was probably the least of their worries, because he never, there's really nothing he ever said that should have agitated the Romans. And so they think that we're going to betray him, we're going to kill one of our brothers, or we're going to hand him over to the Gentiles, That way we get to keep our power. We get to stay as high priest. Because the temple's here, I'm still here. Because I get to keep my job as the high priest in the Sanhedrin. We get to continue our reign over Israel. Okay? So they both sought, as the brothers, the bad shepherds of Joseph's brothers sought to make a profit off of him. So did the high priest, because they were going to be able to keep their power by turning Jesus in to the Gentiles. Now, so to the high priest, it would be like to kill Jesus means profiting, being able to keep your power and a temple. Okay? And for the brothers of Joseph to turn Joseph over to the Ishmaelites, they would be able to get some cash involved. Okay, now let's go back to Genesis 28. Then were passed by the Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt. So how much did they sell him for? 20 pieces of silver. Now this is interesting because Jesus is betrayed for 20 pieces of silver. But let's go to Zechariah and see a prophecy concerning this. There's actually two prophecies concerning this. We're going to get to the one in Zechariah, and then we'll read the other one in just a second. So Zechariah 11, 12 through 13, and it was broken in that, 11, 12 through 13. And I said unto them, this is the prophet Zechariah, if ye think good, give me my price, and if not, forbear. So they weighed for my price 30 pieces of silver. Now, Zechariah is a true priest of God. He's a true prophet. And all they valued him in the temple was 30 pieces of silver. And listen to what God says. And the Lord said unto me, cast it to the potter, a goodly price that I was apprised at of them. And I took the 30 pieces of silver and cast them to the potter in the house of the Lord. So what God was saying is, you valued me at only 30 pieces of silver. Now let's go to Matthew 26. Now these people apparently haven't changed since Zechariah's days. So we're 26, verses 14 and 15. Okay. Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went unto the chief priests, and said unto them, what will ye give me, and I will deliver him unto you? And they coveted with him 30 pieces of silver. And from that time he sought the opportunity to betray him. So Jesus was betrayed for 30 pieces of silver. Just as Joseph was betrayed for money. He was betrayed for 20, Jesus was betrayed for 30. 30 pieces of silver during this time was the price of praise for a slave. They valued God at the cost of a slave. That's how much that they valued him. Now let's go to 27, 3 through 10. Okay. Then Judas, which had betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself, and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned, and that I have betrayed the innocent blood. And they said, what is that to us? See thou to it. And he cast down the 30 pieces of silver in the temple, and departed, and went and hanged himself. And the chief priests took the silver pieces, and said, it is not lawful to put them into the treasury, because it is the price of blood. It's blood money. And they took counsel, and bought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. Wherefore the field was called the field of blood unto this day. And then it was fulfilled which was spoken. This is the other prophecy about it. By Jeremiah the prophet, saying, and they took 30 pieces of silver, the price of him that was valued, whom they of the children of Israel did value, and gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord appointed them. So, as it said in Zechariah, Jesus was betrayed for 30 pieces of silver, and they bought a potter's field. And who did Jeremiah be instructed to throw his 30 pieces of silver to? The potter in the temple. So, well, let's see here. So 2 prophecies were fulfilled, and the foreshadowing in Genesis by Joseph. By Joseph's life. Now let's go to Genesis 29 and 30. Now here's the only dude that I think had a good heart, Reuben at this time. And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes, and returned unto his brethren, and said, The child is not, and whither shall I go? So Reuben was the only one that was upset at what happened. Reuben was actually going to try to free Joseph. He was going to go and release him when his brothers were away. Instead, what happened while he was away, probably tending the flock, being a good shepherd, his brothers decided they were going to sell him into slavery. Okay, so Reuben was filled with remorse. Now, this could be an interesting foreshadowing of Joseph of Arimathea, if you think about it, or Nicodemus, because both valued Jesus. Both of them were followers of Jesus, and they both were secretly followers of Jesus. Now, Reuben was secretly going to try to save Joseph. Jesus, whenever he was before the council before the Sanhedrin during his trial, Joseph of Arimathea was probably not there, because he, it says, I think later it might be Luke 23. Let me see if I can flip to it really fast. Luke 23:50. Okay, Luke 23:50. And behold, there was a man named Joseph, a counselor, and he was a good man and just. The same had not consented to the counsel indeed of them. He was of Arimathea, the city of the Jews, who also himself waited for the kingdom of God. So he was probably not there, because it says that he had not consented to the counsel and the deed. Either he was there and didn't consent to it and they ignored him, or he didn't say anything, or he wasn't there. I think he probably wasn't there, because it was in the middle of the night when this counsel was come, which was already illegal by Jewish law. But he was probably not there at the time. And so he was remorseful that Jesus had been crucified, and he went to go claim his body and to bury him. So Reuben felt bad because he was too late. He wasn't there to be able to save his brother from his other brothers. But we're going to stop here and promise next time we're going to get to the coat of many colors. Promise. Okay? I'm going to try to make it the first thing on my list. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope this is edifying, and God bless.